study and read together. But perhaps the most important thing of my life, besides the many experiments I did with electricity, was the formation of this country. And that's what I'd like to talk to briefly. Because if it wasn't for the miracle, literal miracle, of all the necessary personalities to come together and be a part of this country, we would not be here. So I want to start with the miracle of George Washington. If it wasn't for his leadership, if it wasn't for the fact that he cared so much about the country that he refused to let them call him king, and believe me, everybody wanted him to be king, and he refused to be the emperor or the king. And it wasn't for the fact that he inspired his men at Valley Forge when all was lost. And if you don't know this, the Continental Congress did not pay anybody. They said they would, but they never did. And if it wasn't for the fact that he inspired them to stay and move back across the Delaware and finally defeat the British, we would not be the country we are today. Would you please give George a round of applause? But it took more than just leadership for our country. We needed an architect, not just of Washington, D.C., and of so many other wonderful structures. We needed an architect of words. And I think you'll agree with me, the genius showed up in Thomas Jefferson when he wrote the Declaration of Independence and the United States Constitution. He and Madison together produced that document. The most important thing, though, that Jefferson gave us was this amazing sense of ourselves that we as individuals could experience freedom, but only if we declared our freedom. You had to speak it out loud, which is why I'm so proud of all of my founding principles up here, that everything we had, we put on the line for this country. But when you do that for yourselves, then you were bound to succeed. I guarantee you, even if you failed, you would succeed because you would learn what was necessary for the next move and the next step. Please give Thomas Jefferson a round of applause. Now, it was by no accident that we became a country of laws. And it was neither Jefferson nor George who did this. It was John Adams. John Adams was diligent, and he was absolutely inclined that we would have laws. That's what makes our country so great. It's not personalities that determines who we are. It's laws. The same thing is true with our teaching. It is the law that operates functioning at the highest level that we can think. And John, while he was not very effective in France, I can attest to that, but he was extremely effective in England. And he was the one who did so much work to establish the groundwork for us to finally have a peace with England. But some of you may not know that the beginnings of the Revolutionary War were in Boston with the Boston Massacre, where a bunch of people, a bunch of revolutionaries were protesting the Stamp Act, and they approached the docks there, and the British soldiers fired upon them and killed 7 or 8 Americans. But it was John who defended those soldiers in court. It wasn't about country, it was about law. And I thank John Adams for his diligence. Please give him a round of applause. And finally, our country would not be where it is without innovation and invention. And I'm proud to say that that's one of the things that I gave to this country. And that's within each of you. You can create the life you want to live. You can invent new things. You can invent new ways to think and new ways to behave. And I'm the living proof of that. All the things that I did was simply to express a greater degree of livingness. And early on in my career, I invented a stove called the Franklin stove that prevented many people from dying of asphyxiation. And I did not patent the stove. I wanted the stove to be for everybody. That is the spirit of this country, that we work with each other. And it's through consensus, and yes, it's through compromise. It's by finding common ground that we can stand on together that makes this country tremendous. There is a miracle to be acknowledged here, because it took all of us to create this country, and it's going to take all of you to sustain it. And the only thing I ask of all of you, please, do not ever underestimate the importance of your vote. We fought hard for you to have that right. For you not to vote, I have to say, insults the history of our country. Do not become apathetic. It's okay to have a point of view. It's okay to be different. I can attest Jefferson and Adams, two of the most different people on the planet. And yet in the end, they were friends. Why? Because they knew that they had created something bigger than themselves, which is this country. Ladies and gentlemen, God bless.